I was finalizing the last few names on my wedding guest list when a text from my mother appeared on my phone. Your sister's wedding is the family's focus. We won't be able to come to yours? No emoji. No punctuation that softened the blow. Just silence that said everything. It hit harder than I expected, like someone quietly shutting a door from the other side. I didn't argue. I just stared at the blinking cursor, typed, "That's okay," and closed my laptop. A week later, while they were dressing up for Leah's big day, the world discovered something they never cared to ask about. My own ceremony was already happening under the willow trees, at a quiet countryside estate I'd bought overlooking the hills. And when the photos surfaced, the silence from home said everything. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, please subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. When people ask what growing up in our house was like, I never know where to begin. From the outside, we looked picture perfect, matching pajamas at Christmas, smiling photos on the fridge, polite laughter at dinner. But if you looked closer, you'd notice the pattern. Every story, every celebration somehow circled back to my younger sister Leah. She was the light, the favorite, the center of every room. I was the quiet one, holding the balance without being noticed. Mom's eyes always brightened when Leah entered. Dad bragged about her recitals to anyone who'd listen. When I brought home straight A's or my first promotion, they smiled, nodded, and changed the subject. Mom used to say, "You're lucky, Ava. Things just come easier for Leah." That word, lucky, made every late night and every ounce of effort feel invisible. There's a photo album in my parents' living room that tells the story better than words ever could. Page after page of Leah blowing candles, Leah in tutus, Leah at her graduation. I appear once, maybe twice, blurred, turned away, cropped at the edge. When I was 16, I found a photo where I once stood beside her. But in the printed version, my face was gone. Mom said it made the picture more balanced. I didn't cry. I just stopped expecting to be included. Grandma Ruth was the only one who saw through it. She'd lean toward me at dinners and whisper, "Don't worry, sweetheart. Some people only notice what sparkles." And she was right. My cousin Nora was like that too. She always remembered my birthday, even when my parents forgot. But favoritism doesn't burst out of nowhere. It seeps in slowly, quietly, until silence feels safer than speaking. By the time we were adults, it was our family's language. When Leah skipped my college graduation, Mom called it a misunderstanding. When she borrowed money and never paid it back, Dad said, "She's still finding herself." So when that text about the weddings came through, I wasn't surprised. It just confirmed what I'd always known. I had spent my entire life being the one who bent, so everyone else could stay comfortable. But that night, something changed. For once, I didn't bend. I looked around my apartment. The warm glow of the lamp, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint scent of jasmine from the candle I'd lit to calm myself. My wedding invitation sat neatly stacked on the counter, sealed in bronze wax. I'd imagined them proudly displayed on my parents' fridge. Now I imagined them unopened, pushed aside for Leah's glossy event. And beneath the ache, something new stirred. A quiet realization. Maybe it was finally time to stop begging for a seat at a table that was never meant for me. 2 days later, Leah called like nothing had happened. Her voice was sugar-sweet. "You're not gonna believe it," she said. "The venue we wanted just opened up. It's the same weekend as yours. But that's okay, right? You're having something small anyway." She laughed like it was a joke. I paused, letting her voice fill the silence. She wanted me to say it was fine, that it was always fine. "That's great, Leah," I said evenly. "Perfect timing." She giggled. "I knew you'd understand. You've always been so reasonable." There it was again, my assigned role. The one who stayed calm, the one who made things easy. The next night, Mom called. Her tone was careful, like she was already bracing for how I'd react. "Sweetheart," she began softly. "Leah's fiance's family can only do that weekend. It would mean so much if you could move your date. You're independent, Ava. You'll understand," I almost laughed. "Easier for them. Always for them." "Mom," I said quietly, "you promised you'd be there." She sighed, long and heavy. "It's not about sides, it's just timing." That word, timing, landed wrong. It was everything I built my business around: precision, order, respect. But in my family, timing was just another excuse. That night, I called Dad. He picked up with his usual calm. "You know how your sister is," he said. "If we don't go, she'll take it personally. You've always been the strong one." I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted iron. "So once again, I have to be the one who understands?" He didn't answer. I hung up before I started crying. For a while, I just sat in the dark, the refrigerator humming softly in the background. The light from my engagement ring shimmered across the countertop like a quiet reminder. You don't need to keep proving you deserve to be chosen. That's when it clicked. They weren't cruel. They were careless. Their silence wasn't peace. It was power. And I was done mistaking indifference for love. I opened my laptop, scrolled through my saved bookmarks, and stopped on one I'd saved months ago: a coastal villa in southern Spain. White walls, wild olive trees, sunlight turning everything gold. If they wouldn't show up for me, I'd create something they couldn't ignore. The next morning, I booked the villa. No announcement, no family group chat. Just a single choice made in quiet freedom. When the plane touched down, the air smelled like salt and promise. An older man, Matteo, met me at the villa. He handed me a set of keys and said in accented English, this place was waiting for someone brave enough to love it again. For the first time in years, I felt seen. I spent the next few weeks restoring it, painting, planting, planning. Every night I sat beneath the vines sketching out the courtyard. One long wooden table under soft lights, surrounded by wild flowers. No family table, no hierarchy, just love. The locals started calling me La Dama Tranquila, the quiet lady. I liked that. My silence wasn't surrender anymore. It was strength. When I told my fiancé the plan, he smiled and said, "If this is what peace looks like for you, I'll be there." And for the first time, I believed someone meant it. I sent new invitations, simple, handwritten, sealed with pressed leaves. The first went to Nora, the second to Grandma Ruth. And then the replies began. "We heard what happened," Nora said on the phone. "Everyone's pretending Leah's wedding is the main event. We're done pretending. We'll be there." By the end of the week, flights were booked. Grandma texted, "I've missed enough real love in my life. Count me in, darling." They made a group chat and named it The Real Table. For once, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt chosen. And I realized, this wasn't revenge. It was revelation. The morning of both weddings came under the same sun. In the city, Leah's ballroom glittered under chandeliers, but half the front row seats sat empty. Mom smiled too wide, pretending not to notice. Dad checked his watch every few minutes. "Maybe flights got delayed," she whispered. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the same sunlight poured through olive branches, landing on a long table dressed in linen and candles. Children laughed between the trees. My friends tuned a guitar. Grandma sat in the front row, holding an olive branch she'd picked that morning. When I stepped into the courtyard, my simple ivory gown caught the light. Grandma whispered, "There she is." And for the first time, I believed her. There was no orchestra, no perfection, just laughter, wind, and warmth. As I walked down the aisle, I thought of every birthday, every graduation, every empty chair that once felt like rejection. Here, every seat was filled. The officiant smiled and said, "Love isn't measured by who was invited, but by who showed up." The words landed deep. My vows came easy. "To the ones who show up," I said softly, "this love is for you, for those who believed before I did, for those who stayed when it wasn't convenient." When the ceremony ended, applause rose, not loud, but full. It was real. Later that evening, as candles flickered and music filled the air, Nora leaned toward me, showing her phone. "They're already talking about it," she said. Photos from our celebration were spreading across family chats. Grandma laughing, the table glowing under the vines, the sea in the distance. Across the world, in that ballroom, Leah froze mid-photo as her bridesmaid whispered, "Wait, isn't that your family?" Mom's hand trembled. Dad's face went pale. No one said a word. The music played on, but the joy was gone. Back in Spain, Grandma squeezed my hand. "This," she said, "is what family should have always looked like." I smiled. It finally does. The night shimmered with laughter and candlelight. Later, I walked toward the grove, the villa glowing softly behind me. My phone buzzed with messages, missed calls, and voicemails. I didn't open them. The next morning, sipping coffee beneath the same olive trees, I listened to Mom's voicemail. "Ava, how could you do this to us? Everyone's talking about it. We looked like fools." I replayed it once. Then I deleted it. They thought humiliation was the punishment. It wasn't. The real consequence was that I had finally moved on, without their permission. Weeks later, the villa was quiet again. One morning, Mom called. "You embarrassed us," she said. "You made us look heartless." I exhaled slowly. "I didn't make you look anyway, Mom. I just stopped covering for you." There was silence. Then Grandma's voice came faintly through the receiver. "Enough, Diane," she said. "You asked her to stay small for your comfort." She stood tall. "And that's not cruelty. That's freedom." The line went silent, and for once, it didn't hurt. I stepped outside. The olive trees swayed softly in the breeze. Mateo called from the kitchen. "Todo bien?" I smiled. "Better than ever. It's finally quiet. In all the right ways." That evening, I set one last plate at the table, tied a soft green ribbon around the chair, and whispered, "For the girl who once waited to be chosen." The wind moved gently through the vines, like applause, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt free. Remember, peace doesn't mean silence. It means you've stopped fighting to be heard by the wrong people. If this story found you when you needed it most, hit subscribe and share it with someone who's still waiting to be chosen. Because healing starts when you stop asking permission to exist.